Hello, I'd like to welcome you back to the Sustainable Urban Governance class. My name is Marty Rowland, and what you just saw was some infrastructure project across the street from City Hall. We're standing in front of City Hall for a variety of reasons. I wanted to talk a little bit about the introduction to the class on sustainable urban governance. But across the street over at the Holiday Inn, what you're seeing is what you saw was the roof project, where apparently they've got this gigantic crane going up about 150 or 200 feet, taking roof material off the roof, putting it into a dumpster, and then they'll probably go back and put on a new roof. But we're standing in front of City Hall because I wanted to highlight some of the things about city government and kind of bring forward the whole purpose of the Sustainable Urban Governance class is to encourage the adoption of what I call a standard for governance systems. And the students in the class are starting to be informed about that standard. But in a few words, what that means is that I'm encouraging the city of New Orleans and any city in the United States to adopt this standard for how they operate government, with the idea that you first identify what your priorities are within the government, identify the revenue that you have coming in, identify what it is that you need to accomplish the priorities, and then periodically visit the accomplishment, the measurability of what you say you're going to do in terms of the priorities. And that's really the nutshell of what this urban governance class is all about, sustainable urban governance. So I guess I want to start out by talking about what is infrastructure. And before I go into that, over the years we've called infrastructure different things. And back in the 18th century, when the United States was formed, things that we now call infrastructure were called internal improvements, because most of the country existed on the East Coast. It was known very early on that if the country was going to expand or become powerful enough to beat the British or beat any other adversary, that we're going to need roads, we're going to need harbors, we're going to need railroad systems and those kind of things. So internal improvements was the watchword. Then in the 19th century, the idea of public works came into play, because the idea that putting people into cities without proper sanitation were going to be a problem. So public works was what the buzzword was. And throughout Boston, New York, Chicago, some of the larger cities, there was sanitation problems. People were getting sick. We had yellow fever epidemics in New Orleans. So the idea is we need public hospitals, we need public health care, those kind of things, public works. Then in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, the idea of infrastructure. I think in a sense it was unfortunate that we kind of got off into that word, because in the earlier ones there was a connection between a need and doing something about it. So the various universities have had programs on infrastructure, public works, but they've all kind of gone by the wayside. Even Tulane University, where I taught this course that was called Infrastructure Systems or Urban Infrastructure, it was not taught again after my introduction in 2002. So what I'm trying to do is revive this interest in infrastructure. Yeah, we were talking about the idea of wealth and the idea of public wealth. One of the things I wanted to make clear early in this video and throughout the course is the idea of what public wealth is all about. And in the 18th century, there was economists in Central Europe who were actually prior to Adam Smith and some of his nonsense. But in Central Europe, you have these economists called Cameralists that were looking out for the needs of the state to have a strong government, so that you would have a ready army that could battle the invaders that were constantly coming in. But they had a perfect idea of how to visualize the economy, and they identified wealth as blood, trade as the arteries, and the government as the heart that circulated the capital, you know, the social capital, public capital, private capital, for the good of the general welfare of the people. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to bring forward in this is a course like this. But what I want to do is identify the 8 types of infrastructure systems, and then what I'll do is give a little overview of the next video. This video right here is number 6 in the series, and asking students to participate. But the 8 types, the first one is transportation systems. You can see a lot of cars parked on the street. You can hear horns buzzing and people parking over there. Water and wastewater systems. You can see some fire hydrants around here. Water fountains, wastewater systems. Waste management. There's garbage cans all over here. You got garbage trucks going by. Energy production and distribution. There's plenty of energy outlets, energy lines that are throughout here. Buildings, you know, all these buildings, the hotels, you got City Hall, you got the fire departments, police departments. Recreation and cultural amenities. I guess you could call the park across the street there, that's got the nice gazebo and the trees and such, being a cultural and recreation area. Communications, we have cell phones like here and the other radios that the police use, for example. And then security systems. You know, one of the things that a few of the textbooks identified was security systems in the pre-2001 books on infrastructure. But it's very clear after 9/11 that communications, in fact, Katrina was, the security system was very shoddy. In fact, when all the police left the city, nobody could talk to each other because all the radios were on different frequencies. So what I want to do is, before I leave this thing, I wanted to identify that this course is built around 3 ideas: that governance systems, sustainable urban governance systems, consists of public capital, sustainable design, and public wealth. And before we leave this first video, and what I'm going to be talking about in the video number 7 is going to be the idea of public capital. And you can see the City Hall. There was a talk about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago about tearing down the existing City Hall. And it's such a ludicrous idea, because you only borrow money in a wise government system when you're going to have that contribute to the future capital, to the future public wealth of the city, of the government that you're looking at. So what in the God's earth were they thinking about when they're saying, let's tear down this City Hall and incur some debt? You'd be better off to fix up a commercial area, for example, in Gentilly or New Orleans East, or the Tulane Gravier area, for example, and have that be a generation of wealth where you could have some taxes and have the money go toward the city, and then they could build the City Hall on the revenue generated that way. That's just a kind of a preview or a snapshot, nutshell idea of what proper urban governance is all about. I guess one of the things I'm thinking about is that nobody really understands this science, maybe outside of myself and a few other people. So, you know, people who throw out those ideas, oh, let's tear down the City Hall, let's build a new one, let's incur in debt. Nobody came out and spoke out against it. And I think that's just evidence that there's such a lack of knowledge of what's going on in the city. So that's the video number 6. I'd like to have you join me next time in video number 7, where I talk a little bit more about public capital.